break him in today, and he's going to lead us in the pledge.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jacob, would you pray for us, please?
Your gracious and heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this beautiful day you've given us, Lord, and thank you for bringing all these wonderful people out to help fellowship and try to change the future and the community, Lord. Lord, go with us through our meeting, and Lord, please bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies and our bodies to your service. It's in Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Nelson is MIA again, so I guess Rotary verse 1.
R-O-T-A-R-Y, that spells Rotary. R-O-T-A-R-Y is known on land and sea. From north to south, from east to west, he profits most who serves the best. R-O-T-A-R-Y, that spells Rotary.
We're going to tell Nelson, yeah, I was going to say, we're going to tell Nelson we don't really need him, do we, Bill? We'll learn the second verse one of these years. Okay. I don't have any birthdays or anniversaries unless someone wants to admit to anything. No? No takers? Okay. All right, Johnny, are you ready?
Well, I'm not going to pick on anyone today, but I'm going to start off by telling you that Jerry Taylor is going to have exploratory cancer surgery in the morning here in White River, so keep Jerry and Diane in your prayers. We don't have a time yet that he's supposed to be there, but they're supposed to call him this afternoon, tell him when to be there. So just keep Jerry and Diane in your prayers. Did you hear that Forrest Gump had passed away? Say, ah. Well, Forrest got up to pearly gates and Peter said, oh, Forrest, so glad to see you here, and I know that you're an eligible candidate, but we've come up with a little test before you can get into heaven. There's only 3 questions, so don't worry about it. I'm going to give them to you right now. You got the night to think about it, and you come back in the morning and answer. He said, the first question is, what are the 2 days of the week that have T's in them? Well, the second one's a little harder. How many seconds are there in a year? The third one is, what is God's first name? Okay. So he went out, came back the next morning. Peter said, are you ready? I think so. He said, all right, Forrest, first question. What are the 2 T's in a week? He said, today and tomorrow. Peter said, well, I hadn't thought about it that way, but okay, Forrest, I'm going to let you ride on that one. He said, all right, second question. How many seconds are there in a year? Forrest said, 12. He said, now, Forrest, I can let you by on the first one, but how did you come up with 12 as seconds in the year? He said, well, there's January the 2nd, February the 2nd, March the 2nd. He said, all right, I'll let you go. Now, you've got to get this one right. What is God's first name? Andy. Andy, where in the world did you come up with that? From the church hymnal. What do you mean? And he walks with you, and he talks with you. That's it for the day. See, after 2 weeks of horror ones, I actually had
Yeah, I was a little nervous on why we were going there for a while. It all worked out. Okay. Secretary's report, we have 22 Rotarians here today and a couple of guests, kind of sort of not guests, but Donna, do you want to introduce your guest?
I'm the sort of Josh
Kind of
Kemp,
sort of not
CEO of Ozark Information Services.
Welcome, Josh. We're glad you're here. And then we'll introduce you guys here in a minute. Okay, Brenda, do you have anything from service?
Just, would you do a reminder for our service night for? Okay, we'll do that. Okay, one of our service projects is providing tennis shoes to the kids in schools, and the fundraiser for that is our annual, this is our third annual yard sale. You guys have all gotten the flyer and everything. We're looking for volunteers to help us man up that. We need staff there to sell, and then we need people to donate stuff too. So thank you for the people who have already signed up. The ones that I didn't get around to, I'll try to get you before you leave today. And that is next week, June 2nd and 3rd, the first Friday and Saturday of the month of June.
Dwight, do you have anything from treasurer?
We still have a few outstanding balances, so what I'm going to do, I know emails get full and invoices probably get overlooked. I'm going to send out a statement for anyone who has still a balance on their account, just as a reminder in the next week or so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, today's door greeter was supposed to have been Phil Baldwin and he didn't make it. Next week it's Nelson Barnett. No, we won't be here next week. So the next time that we're here, it will be Nelson Barnett. Like I just said, next week we will not be meeting. So really watch your emails. I'll try to send out reminders after we get back to work next week about the yard sale. We are going to need help setting up that Thursday evening about 5:30, Brenda?
About 5:30, we have a full crew of setups.
Okay.
Setups are good.
5:30. So if you have things to bring, that's when we need you to bring them out there to the fairgrounds after 5:30 that evening. If you have any clothes racks we can borrow, any hangers that we can borrow or have, bring that all out to the fairgrounds next Thursday evening after 5:30. And we'll be getting stuff set up. Club awards, I'm still taking nominations for Rotarian of the Year. So if anybody has anyone they would like to nominate, please let me know as soon as possible. Community awards, today is the last day to nominate for community awards. Last week I got several in, so I need some help this week. If anybody can meet with me on Wednesday for lunch to help me choose the winners, please let me know. And we'll meet Wednesday for lunch and try to narrow that down to who the final 5 winners are. So just let me know if you're available to help me do that. The new superintendent for Batesville is Dr. Michael Hester. He will be inducted as a Rotarian effective June 1st. We're going to try to induct him at our officer induction ceremony on June the 26th that we'll be having at Josie's. And Mark Martin will be our guest speaker that evening. That should be a big night we won't want to miss. Okay, Dennis, at this time I'm going to let you introduce your speaker.
Thank you, Amanda. Really, our speakers need no introduction today, but it's Kurt Warden, who's the Executive Vice President of LaCroix Optical. Kurt has a bachelor's degree from the University of Arizona and an MBA from Oklahoma City University. He's involved in many community organizations. He's on the Airport Commission and is on the board of Lyon College. I've asked Kurt to give us a update on what I think is one of Batesville's most unique industries, LaCroix Optical, and I think he brought a special guest with him to assist in that process. So let's give a Rotary welcome to Kurt Warden.
I'd like to thank Dennis for inviting me today, and thank you all for coming here and allowing myself and Ray LaCroix to speak to you today about our company. One little update, we just turned 70 this year, and so at the end of last year, and starting January 1st, we officially changed the name of the company and updated our logo. We are now LaCroix Precision Optics. And if you'll pause that for just a second. What we've done is we've changed the logo because we still sounded a lot like an optical shop where you go get your glasses fixed. And so, and we've also updated the logo to kind of take us into the next next generation and next this video here gives you a good, quick 2-minute glimpse of kind of what we do, and then we'll start. I'll start the presentation after that. It's a little marketing. So, we are a custom manufacturer of precision optics. We do everything except eyeglasses. Types of optics that we produce are lenses, acromats, prisms, mirrors, windows, and wedges. And now, just recently, A-spheres, which is it's a type of lens that, where most lenses are spherical, the radius changes as you move out from the center. And the neat thing about an A-sphere is you can, when you have an optical system that could have anywhere from 5 to 10 lenses in it, a designer can design in an A-sphere and take out 3 to 5 lenses out of that system. The A-spheres correct for a number of different aberrations that you get with spherical optics. If you are concerned about size or weight, then an A-sphere could be a good solution for you. Next slide, please. The different industries that we make optics for are primarily medical and defense, and then we also do stuff in the scientific, industrial, and astronomy industries. Some of the cool things that our optics go into, we make surgical loops, which that surgeon's wearing over there in the corner. This helicopter there, we make an optic that goes on the side of that helicopter, and it's attached to some electronics, and it can actually detect surface to air, and it happens so quickly, it senses the missile and immediately launches countermeasures, which you see are flying out of coming out of the side of that helicopter. Laser target designators, endoscopy down there on the bottom, ophthalmology diagnostic equipment over there on the far left. We make optics that go into the little ball turret of the drones, and we are actually doing some optics for rifle scopes. Next slide. Now, I brought Ray here today because nobody tells the story of the company better than he does. I'd like to introduce Ray.
Before I start, I'm going to date some of you. My father was a Rotarian, and that would have been 32 years ago. But how How many of you remember my father in Rotary? Okay. Very good. My father started LaCroix Optical in 1947 in Chicago. He bought war surplus equipment after the war and set up his own business. Optics is the only thing he had ever done. He started as an apprentice in a small shop in Chicago, which was bought by what became Bell and Howell. He ended up working for Bell and Howell Company during the war. They were one of the largest optical manufacturers in the country at that time. And later in the war, he was recruited to start an optical shop for another company. And after the war, as I said, he bought surplus equipment, went into business for himself. That was in 1947. And he was in rented quarters. In 1960, he found a little building in a small town in northern Illinois, Kirkland, Illinois, a little town of 1,000 people. It was a little farm community. Two of the key employees that were hired when he started up in Kirkland were two brothers from Cushman, Arkansas, Danny and Gerald Dale. And they became key employees and skilled craftsmen. Two things happened. One, Chrysler built a large assembly plant in Belvedere, Illinois, which was just about 12 miles north of Kirkland. And needless to say, that put a dent in the labor supply and the wages that were being paid. In 1966, Gerald and Danny decided that they wanted to come back home and live, and they gave notice and left. And, my father and I were sitting at lunch one day, and we were very busy, and Dad said, you know, we've got two brothers, two guys down in Arkansas that know how to make lenses. And we've got some surplus equipment. I wonder if they'd be interested in making optics down in Arkansas. We called them, and they were very excited about that prospect. So in 1966, we set up a branch plant here in Batesville. We were located down across from the old train station. I don't know if any of you remember. At one time, it was a machine shop. After we left, it was a machine shop, and Dr. Stalker had his rib cooking facility there. In 1976, we made the decision to move to Batesville, lock, stock, and barrel, because the two brothers were doing better than we were in Illinois. Primarily because they had a better labor supply. We always paid the same wages north and south, but that same wage got us a much higher caliber of help here in Batesville. So in 1976, we built building out north of town and moved lock, stock, and barrel to Batesville. And we've gone through 4 expansions now. The original building was 12,500 square feet. And with the new addition that we've got now, we're up to 46,250. But when we started in Batesville, we were a multi-state corporation with a total of 25 employees. We've grown considerably since then. Anybody have any questions about the history or how we got here?
Ray, how many people came with you from Illinois to Batesville?
2 or 3, and one ended up staying, a young lady that stayed with us quite a while and actually retired from LaCroix Optical. Yes, Audrey?
How many employees do you have now?
Right now, we're just a shade under 100. At our peak, back when there was war going on and so forth, we were 140 employees. Dennis?
Historically, I've been impressed by the longevity of the employees that you have. Do you have any metric to sort of measure that? It seems like when someone goes to work for you, they kind of stay the rest of their life.
We're too good to them. We have a couple employees that are 40 years plus. We've got several employees that are 25 and 30 years, and I think our average length of employment is about 14 or 15 years. We try to be very fair with our employees.
Are the Dales still around?
No, they retired. Both of them had close to 50 years of employment with us when they did retire. Any other questions?
Let me ask you one. You got here based on their work ethic, I guess. Is that correct?
Yes.
How over the years, how has that continued? Is it you still? Otherwise, I guess I'm saying is that does the work ethic around here help you internationally now in your business venture?
Very much so. We cannot say enough good things about the quality of help here in Batesville. There's a good loyalty to the company. There's a good work ethic. We're able to train the people and then turn them loose and let them do their job with a minimum of supervision. In fact, our supervisors are more coaches than supervisors. Our supervisors work alongside the hourly people, just helping them do their job. So we're all part of one team. Anything else? It's your last chance to.
Has the efficiency picked up since Kurt came on board?
I'm going to have to think about that. No, very much so. Kirk's gotten us into some new areas. Kirk's expertise is sales and marketing. I call myself a nuts and bolts guy. I'm more comfortable out with the machines and so forth, actually producing optics. And Kirk has really given us a sales and marketing thrust that's helped considerably. We've gotten into new markets as a result of his efforts. He showed you the picture of some of the products that we make, and one of them was the rifle scope. About 5 years ago, Kirk came to me and said, you know, there's a show in Las Vegas that we really ought to go to, the SHOT Show. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. It's if you're interested in guns, this is you've died and gone to heaven if you go to the SHOT Show. Every gun manufacturer in the United States is there, and he said we really need to go and talk to these people with all the auxiliary equipment, the rifle scopes and various sighting things. And so Kirk and I went out there for a couple of years and just called them. And made our rounds talking to the engineers in the booths. And little by little, we started getting some interest. Right now, we're doing work with, 3 or 4 different scope manufacturers. And that scope that was pictured is an interesting scope. It's entirely made in the United States with all U.S. products. And it's the only one. Up until that scope, there wasn't a rifle scope sold in the United States that was entirely U.S. made. There's companies that make metal parts and assemble their scopes in the United States, but they buy all their optics offshore. So we're real proud of that, and Kirk deserves all the credit for the effort getting our optics into that scope. Yes.
Do you do much international sales, or is it pretty much domestic?
It's pretty much domestic. We do a fair amount of work for a company in Canada, but I don't know if you call that international.
Ray, what is the largest lens you're able to do?
Basically, it's about 6 inches in diameter. But most of our optics are in the 2-inch to a 4-inch diameter range.
Is the 6-inch for like a telescope, or?
Yes, we're doing some larger optics for telescopes that believe, isn't it?
And your new expansion, are you going to make some of these new products in that area, or are you just expanding the whole plant into that area?
Well, we, if you've ever been out there, we got to a point where we weren't using square feet, we were using square inches of space. And we got to a point where if we bought a new machine, we'd have to move one machine out to put the new machine in. And we didn't have the flexibility to set up some of the manufacturing the way we want. And so this gives us a little elbow room where we can experiment with some different layouts, hopefully to increase our efficiency. Also, there's a couple new areas that we'd like to get into.
I guess speaking of that, what do y'all see, if you look at a crystal ball, where do you see yourselves going, and as far as opportunities and that sort of thing in the future?
Good question. The big problem we've got is the Chinese. The Chinese are the 800-pound gorilla. It's extremely hard to compete with them price-wise. We've been able to find niche markets like the medical industry and so forth, where they cannot take a chance on quality. But we see a bright future for optics. Otherwise, we wouldn't have put all this money into that expansion.
So who are some of your domestic competition? I mean, do you have other competition in Arkansas or in the Mid-South? Or, I mean, are you pretty much the only company that does
We're
this?
the biggest and best optic shop in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And the only.
Kurt, we have a lot of competitors up in the Northeast, and then there's also optic shops down in Florida and in California. And it's funny, most companies, it's not huge. You know everybody. You're kind of, we call it friendly competition.
Oh, sure.
Everybody has their specialty. And really our specialty has always been volume. There's really not another shop in the country that can make, or that has the capacity that we do for spherical optics. Some guys will specialize in prisms or something like that.
Sure.
As you're looking at the different market areas getting into, what other underserved areas are in need of precision optics you guys is?
One thing we're finding, one of our fastest growing markets right now is for the quicker turnaround type of requirement. There's a lot of optical design shops that contract with some of these big manufacturers, and so their job is to design and make a prototype. And so they'll work with us. They really don't care how much the optic costs. They just need it in a short amount of time. And a short amount of time really is about 4 weeks. Our standard lead time historically has always been about 8 to 10 weeks.
The company is built on producing large volume orders, tens of thousands of the same part to a customer. And that's changed, and it continues to change because of China and some of the offshore manufacturing companies. So our orders are becoming smaller and smaller, but there's more of them. So we're having to change the way we do business to, as Kirk said, get the orders out faster and more efficiently.
Since China is flooding your market, is there any effort to put some sort of a embargo on that, or tax, or what have you?
Well, our president talks about it. But, over the years, we've tried to approach congressmen and people in Washington about limiting the production of primarily military optics to the U.S. But what we've run into is all these agreements with the other countries. You know, like our jet fighters, the wings might be made by somebody overseas. If we expect them to buy these armaments, they want to have some part of the production. It's the same thing with optics. If they're going to buy some of these optical systems, they want to have the ability to quote and make the optics for some of the optics for these systems. So it's a complicated political problem.
You know, you mentioned, China and other countries several times. Is there from a military standpoint, I know from a hunter standpoint, where you're using binoculars or you're using scopes, is there a quality difference in what you're producing and what we're getting from over there?
Yes, I won't sell let me back up. A long time ago, back in the 60s, Japan was the problem. It was hard to compete with Japan. But their standard of living has increased to the point where it's basically the same as ours, so there's not a cost advantage doing business in Japan. And the quality of optics from Japan is good. The Chinese are doing the same thing. Their optics are getting better, but it's not consistent. What customers tell us is that when they go to China, they'll get one shipment that's great, and the next shipment might be 50% rejects. So there's a consistency issue dealing with China, which is still very helpful to us.
One other question. The big challenge in the industry is robotics. I know y'all are kind of labor intensive. Does robotics fit into what you do, and are pieces of equipment being developed that will replicate what y'all do individually, and do you see that as either opportunity or challenge, depending on which side of the fence you're on? Do you want it to replace people, or do you want it to not be able to do that? What's your thoughts on that?
The one thing about making optics, there's not one machine that you program in what you want and it spits out a finished optic. The process is multi-step, and while you could probably program a robot to do grinding, polishing is really an art form, and it varies from day to day. Even our most advanced CNC machines, the operators can program in, set the machine up exactly as they set it up the day before when it was running perfectly, and they come in and it produces an optic that's completely out of spec. So they have to kind of use their experience. Variables that we deal with are humidity, the ball may of the polishing fluid, the rotation of the earth. Or something. I mean, it's really difficult to make that very deterministic. So I think there's certainly areas where robotics can help us, but I think being able to have a robot do the whole process is a long way.
My father wouldn't recognize the business if he were to come back today. When he passed away, everything was done with what we would call the old conventional method of making optics. There was a lot of manual labor involved. Over the last 20 years, we've gotten into a lot of CNC equipment. And as Kirk said, it's pretty much deterministic, but it's not the complete solution. The operators still need to have a lot of intuitive knowledge of what to do when the output isn't correct.
So where do your raw materials come from? I mean, your glass supplies, I mean, do they come in, I mean, naive and all that, so does it come in sheets, it comes in bulk, I mean, how?
Kind of yes.
What form does it come in?
Optical glass, there's hundreds of different types of optical glass that are formulated to vary in index of refraction. There are really three major manufacturers. One's in Germany, Shot Glass, one's in Japan, Ohara, and then there's a China company now. And and they make bulk glass, but they've moved up the food chain and some make finish optics. So the glass manufacturers, let's just say, keep it simple, they make the bulk glass. Then there are middle operators that actually take the bulk glass and turn them into near net shaped blanks that we use to make the optics. So our engineers will order a specific blank or a custom blank to make our parts. And so we'll use these different American middle operators, and they'll make those blanks for us.
Okay. So you're using American,
In some cases.
but it's coming
In order
probably
to
from
compete with the
overseas.
volume, we're having to go direct to the glass manufacturer.
Overseas.
They've got some plants in Malaysia that are making blanks that are really, really cost competitive.
So are there any manufacturers that do that in the United States?
Making Corning kind of makes a specific type of glass, but that's about it.
Schott, the German company, has a facility in the
Yes.
U.S. where they make some of the glasses here.
Gotcha.
Is there any cost savings for you to develop a process that would take bulk glass and make blanks?
That's one thing we've been looking at, and in some cases we order strip glass and we can core drill it out, saw it and core drill it, and with that demand, that high demand for short lead time optics, that's a direction we may go in the near future. We've got some guys though that are specializing in it and doing it in a week. There's a company up in Massachusetts that we can call them up, and without having to buy all the equipment or do anything, we can tell them what we need. We'll have it by the end of the week.
Anything else? Thank you.
I don't know how we are. We kind of answered most of the questions that are in the presentation, so we can probably just end it right here. Y'all are. We've got some sample optics here. If you want to take a look at it, you can pick them up and look at them if you'd like. But if there's no more questions, I think we'll just wrap it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for coming today. We're going to donate a book to the Independence County Library on your behalf. It's Biscuit Takes a Walk.
I'm very familiar with that.
Are you? Inside it says, this book is donated on behalf of Kurt Warden and Ray LaCroix with LaCroix Precision Optics for speaking to the Rotary Club of Batesville on May 22nd, 2017. So that'll be at the library soon. Thank you guys for coming. Okay, let's do a little joker draw. Just a reminder, the club board decided that we're gonna start helping with the Help and Hope. Kirk, will you pick me on a winning ticket? The first Wednesday night of each month, beginning in July. Thank you. Okay, 865-791.
I have it.
Johnny can't have it.
Yeah, I told you.
Said you were
Yeah.
gonna win.
Said I was gonna win.
Too close to come.
Now, Kurt, if I don't draw the joker, it's your fault.
Yeah, that's kind of a big responsibility there.
Where is it?
I don't know.
It's not that one.
Wah, wah, wah.
Everybody's happy, Kurt, because the pot gets bigger.
Okay.
We'll keep chugging along until we find it. Okay, and one other reminder, the Rotary year is about up. We're gonna be switching everything over on July 1st. Brenda is gonna be taking over as service chair, and she needs some service people to take over each month. So if you're willing to take a month for the next Rotary year, please let Brenda know. And that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything for the good of Rotary? No? If not, we'll end as we always do with the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Number 1.
Is it the truth?
Number 2.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Number 3.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
And number 4,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
we're adjourned. Y'all have a good week.